Hands down, the most common question that I get asked on my Instagram and in my YouTube comments is how to get over the fear of falling in bouldering. Today, I'm going to answer that. Partially. For the more daring and brave among you, this video is going to be more of like a falling 101, how to get over the fear of falling in an indoor bouldering gym. I'm going to be linking other videos and resources in the description below because I know I'm not going to cover everything. Just to cover all of the bases here, regardless of what I tell you in this video, there's always going to be some risk with bouldering. Bouldering is like 99% falling, and sometimes those falls result in injury and there's nothing you can do about it. The two main points I want to talk about in this video is learning proper falling technique and then desensitizing yourself to the idea of falling and the idea of heights. As I said, bouldering is 99% falling, so you have to know how to do it properly. Let's unpack a proper fall from, let's say, a slab or a face wall. Definitely before you climb, make sure you don't have anything that will impale you in your pockets. Make sure you don't have any dangly earrings or jewelry, rings. The first thing that I do when I'm falling from a face is I look down. This is actually a tip that I learned from Nina Williams. She has climbed a bunch of high balls in her day, so she has really good tips on how to fall. When you spend that split second looking down, you can assess your surroundings and how you're going to fall when you land, as well as how far the ground is if you have forgotten somehow. Another reason that I like looking down is that it tucks your neck in and prevents whiplash. There have been times where I've fallen where I don't really engage my neck that much and then my neck will hurt for a very long time because I'm not a kid anymore. I can't just bounce back from injuries like that. The next thing I do is I try to relax my body and bring my knees up. I don't try to bring them above my chest like a cannonball, but I do like to bend them so that when I hit the ground, I'm not hitting it with extended legs. That's so bad. When you hit the ground, you want to bend your knees and then roll onto your back. I'm sure that there's some fancy physics that goes into the roll, which I will explain later because I forgot to look it up. What is up? It is Future Jen, Editing Jen, coming in and saving the day and filling in and patching up all of the holes in my video that I have discovered. The first one being, why do people roll when they are breaking the impact of a fall? I'm sorry, my bangs look like this. Rolling when you hit the ground allows your body to absorb the energy of the fall over a larger area so that there isn't as much strain on your legs and your knees if you're just crouching down. Rolling onto your back allows the energy to dissipate over a larger area and therefore spreads it out a little bit more evenly about your body. But if there are any more reasons that you think I've missed, I'm sure I've missed a ton. Y'all are always correcting me on my physics. So yeah, back to regularly scheduled programming. Lastly, I tuck my arms in. One thing you do not want to do is try to outstretch your arms like this to catch your fall because you will break your arm, especially if you're falling onto your side. And let's talk about falling onto your side because sometimes that does happen. Same thing. What I do is take a peek at the ground, but then tuck my neck in and I roll onto my side and make sure that my arms are really tightly in there. I think the same thing applies to falling from overhung climbs. The most important thing that I think I would recommend is tucking that head in because it was actually on a roof that I fell and got like my kind of neck injury thing. Just falling kind of like a turtle. That's fun. That should take the fear out of falling from an overhung climb if you just pretend you're a little turtle, little climbing turtle. The next part of this video is going to talk about desensitization. I hope that what I'm saying in this is not too controversial, but if you disagree with me, feel free to comment, but just please keep it polite because I'm very fragile. When I say desensitization, what I mean is you're taking that proper falling technique that you learned from section 1 and you're reinforcing it and you're learning and building trust with yourself. This is desensitization in a nutshell. If you're terrified of falling, then you can work your way up from these different exercises. The first one I will coin dyno practice. Start from 2 good footholds that are, you know, around half a foot off the ground and get your hand on a really nice jug. What I want you to do is grab that starting jug and get your feet firmly planted and then launch yourself back into the air. This isn't necessarily like good dyno practice because for dynos you're supposed to leap like straight up and not back. You can do this over and over again just to practice a good fall where you're rolling onto your back. And when you feel pretty confident that you've got the technique down, then you can move on to the next step. What you can do next is intentionally falling off from higher up a problem. I wouldn't advise climbing to the very top and then just launching yourself from the top, but what you can do is climb a little bit higher and a little bit higher and see if you can catch yourself falling from those different heights. Something that I actively practiced was when I had my fear of the slab wall, which is pretty tall in my gym, what I did is I climbed well below my maximum climbing abilities. So for the longest time, I was just climbing V3s on that wall. That way you're kind of getting your body and your mental state used to the idea of being 10 feet off the ground and not freaking out about it. And eventually when you are climbing projects, there might be moments where you feel like you have to bail. When I bail from a problem, what I usually like to do is down climb if I can, but if you're too pumped, then this is where having that practice from falling kind of like halfway up a climb is useful. If you are scared of falling and you don't feel confident that you'll catch yourself every single time you fall, I wouldn't recommend going for difficult moves that you're not sure you're gonna catch. I know one of the main things in bouldering is you wanna improve, you wanna push yourself, but if you're scared of falling to the point where you think you might injure yourself, be kind and gentle with yourself. Just recognize where you are in your bouldering journey and whether or not it's worth it to just go for a move that you're not sure you will stick. When you do feel like you are comfortable catching yourself when you're falling, then it's time to move on to projecting on taller walls. I have only unexpectedly fallen from a handful of problems. I feel like the number of unexpected falls that I've taken is relatively low for someone who's been climbing like 2.5 years. I don't know. Okay, what I meant to say during the section was that even as someone who has been climbing for as long as I have, a couple of years, I still don't like to put myself into positions where an unexpected fall or unanticipated fall might occur as best as I can. I just wanted to say that I still definitely do get freaked out by falling, and the reason that it took so long to film this and edit this in the first place was because I have like a little bit of imposter syndrome talking about this, because I still to this day get really freaked out by heights and by falling. But I do recognize that everybody is at different parts of their climbing journey as well as their journey dealing with fear and fear of falling, and everyone kind of handles their anxieties differently. So I hope that I'm still able to kind of communicate with some of you and help some of you while still like acknowledging that I too can like definitely learn a lot and get a lot better in this regard. I fall a lot, but when I fall, I try to make it controlled and I try to make it an intentional bail rather than like a whole deal. So that's what I meant. It's your journey and you have to be realistic with where you are in your battle with your bouldering fear. But let's think about that point for a second, because I think that our brain has an amygdala for a reason. It is advantageous to have fear, but sometimes it's not necessarily the response that we want when we're climbing. We want to be focused on the next move, and we don't want to be completely engrossed in the idea of what will happen when we fall. Being able to manage this fear while still being able to communicate with it and realize when it's legitimate is really important. I think that having too much fear is actually much more dangerous than having a small yet manageable level of fear. I have been on high balls outside where I'm thinking in the middle, like, if I freak out right now and if I have a meltdown, this will be so bad for me. This will be incredibly dangerous. And if I have an anxiety attack when I'm 15 feet off the ground, it's not going to end well for me. So let me just try and quiet those fears so I can continue down the path that ensures my safety the best, which is probably completing the route. On the flip side, I do think that not having an appropriate fear response can also be detrimental, because when you're so focused on the next move that you're not aware of your surroundings and you're not communicating with your fear, I think that's when people can also get into sketchy situations. You're more likely to take a fall where you're not paying attention to your surroundings. You're not thinking about the ways in which you might fall, and you're not thinking about engaging the proper method of falling. And I think that that's dangerous too. So in a nutshell, I think that this whole getting over the fear of falling should be more of a discussion about managing the fear instead of trying to fight it. I hope this was a helpful video. I hope that you got something out of it. And like I said in the beginning of this video, I did create a playlist of other how to fall and falling related videos, which I will link over here, as well as my most recent video, which I also recommend that you check out over on this side. Let me know if you try any of these tips, and let me know whether they help you and whether or not you're able to manage your fear a little bit better when you're climbing those high walls. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. All right, see y'all.